Apparently, Mr. Weiss is claiming it was some form of self-defense, and yet, based on what we've heard from the police and so on, there were never any, I mean, as far as I know, there wasn't really a physical confrontation. It was more of a, they were in your face type thing, and at some point, Weiss got the gun and shot the teenager. So just looking at this from a self-defense perspective, I know you can't be specific about this case, but under what scenario would somebody be justified in shooting somebody?
Probably the best way to explain self-defense is if somebody is being aggressive toward you, you have the right to respond with that same type of aggression. So whatever weapon is being used against you is really kind of defines the weapon that you could use to respond. So that's really the best way to look at it. So if somebody is coming at you with, in a physical manner with no weapons, you can respond, you can defend yourself with that same level of aggression. The other thing to always keep in mind with respect to self-defense is you have an obligation to retreat. And you have to retreat first. So, and if you don't, then it kind of turns the tables. So that's the two things to I guess they're very kind of elementary in self-defense, the duty to retreat and that you can only use the level of force that's being used against you.
But what if you have a situation where you have a guy about 6'6", 300 pounds beating up somebody who's 5'8" and 120? Would that smaller person have a right to use a weapon in this case to protect himself?
It's hard to get into these what ifs, but you can conceive a situation where something like that's going on and the smaller person could maybe escalate it up a little bit. You can't just leap to deadly force if deadly force is not being used against you. Mm-hmm. And you always have to keep in mind that duty to retreat. So if there's any possible avenue to run, to get out of there, to just remove yourself from that aggressive situation, you have to do that first. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it kind of complicated is, it's those two elements.
Is there any concern that you're hearing from police or anybody else in the public safety community about, here we have a case where Weiss did have the legal right to have a gun. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I can imagine that you're going to be hearing from some people, or the public safety people will, saying, see, this is the problem when you have this permit to carry business.
Actually, I've seen comments on both sides of that issue. There are some people that are commenting that if you have the permit, then you know that you have this obligation to retreat. But then there's others that are out there saying this is why people carry. It's because you never know when an aggressive situation is going to come. Again, we can't get into the facts of the case, but we are aware that during the course of those classes, to get a permit to carry, you are told about the duty to retreat, and specifically told not to use your weapon. People are landing on both sides of that issue. Mm-hmm.
Did you struggle when you were drawing up the complaint on whether he would face manslaughter and or murder, or are the elements there?
We talked about both. The elements are there. The tricky thing about a manslaughter charge is that it goes to somebody's excited state of mind. And honestly, we weren't sure about that, so we didn't include it in the complaint. We just charged out the felony murder at this time.
Okay. See where this case goes.
We'll see.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Mm-hmm.